Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome to the Oriental Café, a podcast where we will sit at the same table to explore the fascinating worlds of Egyptian dance, personal empowerment, and halas, life. I'm your host, Joana Saahirah, world-renowned Oriental dancer, teacher, choreographer, and author, the creator of the pioneering Joana Saahirah's World and Joana Saahirah's Online Dance School. I will meet you at the Oriental Café every 2 weeks, alone or with a guest, sharing intimate yet universal conversations. In agreement or disagreement, we will create bridges and inspire each other, because the world is only one, and so is our human soul. Ready to fall in love? Yalla bina! How to create a kick-ass Egyptian dance performance. A kick-ass belly dance performance, as most people prefer to call it. How to create a dance performance that is so engaging, so magical, so impactful that people will still talk about it years later. Damn it, decades later. You're in for a treat. Welcome to episode number 37 of the Oriental Café podcast with yours truly, your host, Joana Saahirah. This is perhaps one of my favorite themes because it's the theme where I have the most experience. I have started as a performer even before I moved to Egypt to launch my career there. And I have started by filling up rooms, theaters that I proactively rented. I mean, it was nuts. And I'm going to tell you more about it very soon, because that's all part of the story. And that's all part of everything I am going to share with you in this episode. So if you are remotely interested in performing, specifically in the area of Egyptian dance, Oriental dance, belly dance, please stay and listen, because I have gold to deliver. Now, if you are not a part of our podcast community yet, I will invite you to become a part of it, because it's a win-win situation. You will always receive news of upcoming episodes with me and with our very special guests, and you will receive goodies, inspirations, perks, exclusives from me and my guests that I don't share publicly. I only share inside our podcast newsletter. So what is it that you are waiting for? Follow the link in the show notes and join our podcast newsletter right now. I am also going to start by acknowledging that performing is something that I advise all my students. At Joana Saahirah's Online Dance School, in my private coaching programs, in my professional mastermind programs where I follow dancers who want to become professionals, I co-create their course and their performance on a professional level in all the devices and tools I use nowadays. I invariably end up telling dancers to perform, either in an amateur way or a professional way. Whatever makes sense to you, because a performance does not have to be a professional performance. You don't necessarily have to be paid for it and performing in front of an audience that expects a professional work. Performance is good for the sake of what it makes you do. When you're performing, you're hopefully sharing your soul with someone. You're sharing your love for Egyptian dance, and if things are done right, you have prepared for the performance, which is where the real work and the evolution happen. So performing is an excellent excuse to make dancers work. Learn better, learn more, practice more, all those things that I'm always telling my students. Now, the first thing you need to know about performing in the field of Egyptian dance is that you will always have to face expectations that are not necessarily matching what you are about to share with people. In most cases, in Egypt and abroad, the audiences don't expect much from a dancer. That can be a bad thing if you let it put you down, but it can also be a challenge It can also be a provocation that will make you work harder and share something with people that they're not expecting at all, something way better than what they expect. So for me, that is the root of a great performance in the field of Egyptian dance. We must surprise ourselves and our audience, independently of being an amateur or a professional. Now, in all my years as a performer, in Portugal, where I started, then more than 10 years of work in Egypt, in Lebanon, Oman, in shows all over the world. I mean, I'm not going to brag, but I'm going to tell you how many hours of performance I have on my back, and that's pretty much close to eternity. In Cairo, so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about, I used to perform every day with very occasional holidays, 3, 4, 5 times per night, 1-hour shows with my orchestra. And that was before I traveled the world performing in different stages for different cultures, different people, different audiences. Why am I telling you this? Because I want you to know that what I'm sharing with you in this episode doesn't come from my head. It doesn't come from a book I read. It comes from direct, in-depth experience. It comes from a curriculum as a performer that very few dancers have or will ever have. I started very young. I launched myself by myself at the Egyptian market quite young, and I learned the ropes and the rules of the business the hard way. And I am here to share them with you, at least a few of them. So first thing, remember to always work to offer more and better than what the audience expects. This is the first thing, and it should be a challenge. It should be something that pulls you forward, something that ignites the creation of a performance. I want to show them, whoever they are, better and more than what they expect. Okay? Break their hearts, shock them, surprise them, leave them dumbfounded, disoriented. What the hell have I watched right now? That's the challenge that I suggest in the creation of an Egyptian dance performance. If you want to make a difference, if you really want to do something that impacts you, the performer, and your audience. So that's the first thing. Shock them, surprise them, give them more and better than what they expect. The second thing has to do with the differentiation that sometimes put people off. Okay, I'm going to tell you what that is. I'm talking about amateurs and professionals and a clear differentiation between one and the other. When I say this, some dancers get upset with me because they believe there should not be a difference between an amateur and a professional dancer when it comes to performances. But allow me to have my perspective. I do know there is a huge difference between being an amateur and a performer who is a professional working under professional expectations. When I'm dealing with an amateur, when I'm watching an amateur, I don't expect a specific artistic level. I don't expect that dancer to move me. I don't expect that dancer to present a level of expertise, professionalism, artistry, talent, creativity, work, know-how, experience that I expect from a professional. Now, that doesn't mean being an amateur is less than being a professional. I think that being an amateur is an eternal job. You should remain in your heart at some level an amateur. And remember that the meaning of the word amateur is lover, amateur. Amateur is someone who loves to do something. It's a lover of something. And that amateur fire should be there, I believe, till the end. But an amateur does not have the responsibility to deliver a high-level professional job. An amateur usually does it for him or herself, even if they perform in front of people. I presume everyone is clear on the fact that they're not watching a professional, so they're more compassionate. They don't expect so much. They don't demand a certain level of quality of performance. But when you're a professional, paid to do a performance, the responsibility is of a completely different sort. You're not just doing it for yourself and for your enjoyment, you're doing it for a paying audience. And that, for me, makes a huge difference. Again, being an amateur is not less or more than being a professional, but it's definitely different. And when you're preparing a performance, you have to know, where are you standing? Are you an amateur? Are you a professional? Because the requirements and the level of expectation and the level of the work you have to deliver are completely different, or they should be. I cannot afford to perform like an amateur getting paid as a professional. That doesn't make sense. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt your dance. It's going to hurt the status, the fame, the image your audience makes of the dancer that you are and the dance itself. So that's never a good idea. It's important to know exactly where I stand and own it. I have performed as an amateur loads of times and happily before I became a professional. And people knew it. They did not expect more from me, and I knew it. I did it to enjoy myself because I loved it. But once I stepped up and started working as a professional and getting paid for my work, the level of responsibility and the way I worked and prepared and presented myself had to be drastically upgraded. And that's where a lot of dancers miss the point. They believe that if they love it, that's enough. I love to dance, so I should be able to perform. Of course you should be able to perform in an amateur context as an amateur, because loving it is not enough. You have to be really good at it, and you have to present the professional work people are paying you to do. So this is the first point. Aside from remembering that you should always, again, always, as an amateur or professional, give them more than what they expect. Then we have preparation and education. And here dancers get mad at me again. Of course. Because I know for a fact that if you're not educated, if you're not prepared, you're probably not ready to perform, and instead of starting a beautiful dance career, you're just spending some time, which is cool, it's good, but you are sabotaging and harming your name in advance. Now, there is a question about never feeling ready. So that's the opposite spectrum. I know dancers who are ready to perform and don't feel ready. That's another question, okay? Remember that we're learning until we die. At many levels, I don't feel prepared yet, and I've been in this field as a professional for more than 25 years, dancing at the highest level in the most demanding contexts in Cairo and around the world, and I can tell you that I still don't feel ready. So it is a sensitive subject. How do I know if I'm ready? Because then again, a lot of dancers who are ready feel they're not. Okay? And that has to be evaluated from case to case. This is why when I receive dancers in my private coaching or at Joana Saahirah's online dance school claiming they want to transition from amateur to professionals, I always ask them to send me a video of their dance. Even if they don't have a video yet, they can record themselves dancing to the best of their ability. And by watching them, I have an idea. I have a clear image of the level of preparation this person may or may not have. And I know exactly what is missing for them to jump into the professional realm. But that goes from case to case. We cannot generalize. The question is, you have to educate and prepare yourself, because talent and creativity are not the same as knowledge and preparation. You may be the most talented and creative person on planet Earth. You still need to know the language you're dealing with. And it is a language. Remember that Egyptian dance or belly dance is a language. So if you rely on your talent, on your creativity, on your charisma, on your personality, without the knowledge of the language, I think it's pretty logic to assume you're not going to be able to express that talent and creativity efficiently because you don't have the ownership of the language. You don't know how. You have the spark, you may have the ideas, you may have the emotions, you may have the fire, but then the form that will allow you to communicate all that and bring all that to an audience is not there. So never confuse talent and creativity with knowledge and preparation because they're totally different things. They help each other, they intercommunicate, but they are different things. You may be very talented, you still need to study and work and practice and really put your sweat, your heart, and your soul into it. Be confident enough in your talent and creativity and humble enough to know that you need to know. And your body needs to know. Your body needs work. Egyptian dance has to break your bones. It has to break your muscles. It has to work on you. And for it to work on you, you have to work on it. There is no escape and there is no shortcut. And this is why people get annoyed at me. Joana, why do you do this? Why do you do this? Why do you say the truth? It's a bummer. I know, guys, but I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Okay? Let's go again. We have to give them more than what they expect. That's the basic challenge, and it should be there like a cloud over your head while you're preparing your dance performance. How can I give them more and better than what they expect? More and better than what I expect. That's exciting, right? That should be your guidance, number one. Then, what is the context? Am I an amateur? Am I a professional? And if I am a professional, what are the requirements? What is expected of me? What is the responsibility? What is the level of quality I have to deliver in my performance? Because, let me repeat, if you're being paid to do a job, you have to deliver the value for which you were paid. That's a question of integrity, professionalism, honesty, credibility. If you're not being paid, you're just doing it for fun, have fun, who cares? But if you are working as a professional and getting paid for your job, please consider the responsibility of having to deliver value in your performance to your audience. Then we have preparation and education. We also have tapping into your uniqueness. And this is a core value for everything that I do. If you have followed my work for a while, you know this is the base of my teaching. It's the base of my performance. It's the base of everything that I write and publish and create. I believe that everyone is unique because everyone has a unique fingerprint. No dancer listens to the music the same way other dancer does. We all have our personal angle on the music, on the movement, on how it all works out. And tapping into that uniqueness may be scary because you don't know how it's gonna go, if people are going to respond, if it's gonna work, if you're going to be hated or ignored. It's a risk. I know that. I've been living with that risk all my life. So needless to say, you have to be okay being ignored, being loved, and being hated. If you're not okay with that, you're never going to tap into what makes you unique as a dancer, as a performer, and you're not going to bring it to the stage. But I advise you to do that. Bring it to the stage. Have the courage to say, I'll pay the price. I don't care if people think I'm weird because I'm being myself and I'm doing this my way. I don't care if they like me or don't like me or hate me or ignore me. It's their thing. It's their reaction. I'm here doing my thing, doing my dance, doing me. It's important to gain this kind of independence so that you can tap into your uniqueness and you can bring it into your signature style of dance, signature style of performance. Whenever I perform, I know people expect to see specific things and they expect to be surprised. Why? Because independently of how good or bad I may be as a performer, you gotta be sure I'm always myself and I'm bringing my peculiar personal angle to the table. Good, bad, excellent, genius, really bad, that's arguable. It's open for debate. I'm okay with that. But one thing, I'm 100% sure, and everyone who watches me perform knows that. And you can see it. There is a lot of material on YouTube from my performances in Egypt, performances around the world. Take a look. Okay, actually, I'm going to share a couple of bonus resources for dancers who would like to perform. You're going to find the link to claim your bonus resources in the show notes. And in those bonus resources, I am going to include one or two of my performances so that you feel what an individual feels like. Again, you may like it or not. That's your concern. It's your right to like it or not. I don't like everyone, and I don't like every dancer. It doesn't mean they're good or they're bad. Everyone has their taste. But one thing I know for sure, I'm bringing my uniqueness to the table. And that is something that audiences expect to see. When I was performing in Egypt during those more than 10 years of daily work with my orchestra, I performed mostly for local audiences. Those were Egyptian families, Arabs from neighboring countries, and sometimes I would perform in front of foreigners, but mostly for locals who are till today my favorite audience. There is nothing like dancing for Egyptians. And I remember that during those formative years, I learned a lot about performance and what works and what doesn't, what makes it impactful, because I lived according to the request for my name. So let me tell you how that works. In Cairo, at least in the places where I performed under contract, people would call by my name. They will schedule a night out. They will pay for a show. They will do a reservation in my name, in the name of the dancer they wish to see. That meant every week I had to sit down with my musicians and decide how are we going to keep bringing people in week after week. This was not an occasional performance. This was a daily thing. How do we keep the show fresh, surprising, attractive, entertaining, captivating, so that the same Egyptian families come and they return and they bring their friends and their family and they keep coming day after day, month after month, year after year? That's a school. Okay, that's a school right there. If you manage to answer that question, how do I keep them coming? Egyptian audiences in Egypt, and I'm a foreigner, and I don't look Egyptian at all, okay? And if you succeeded at bringing those families in week after week, year after year, man, you know a thing or two about performance. So one of the things I learned in those formative years is that by being myself and bringing my ideas and bringing my sensibility and bringing my unique fingerprint, I made sure, point number one, nobody could compete with me because they're not me. They could even copy my show alignment, and they did. Some dancers did, but they were not me. So they were not delivering the program. I was delivering it. And as you may all know, it doesn't matter so much what you do, but the way you do it, especially in Egyptian dance. It's not so much what you do, but how you do it that really makes it shine. So I knew that by being myself, there was no competition to be had. Nobody could be me. And I also knew that I would always bring something honest and human and vulnerable that would connect with the audience instead of just performing for them, showing them an exhibition of some sort. That connection from person to person was always there. And honey, there is nothing more attractive than that connection. Let me take a look at my notes because I don't want to forget anything. And I am leaving a lot out of this episode, as you can imagine. Okay, these are more than 25 years of experience in the field as a performer. Nowadays, people know me mostly as a teacher because since I opened Joana Saahirah's online dance school in 2020, I've been investing so much in my teaching. But most dancers know me as a performer because that's my core and that's where I started and that's how I operated exclusively for so many years of my life. So I'm coming from a place of a performer who became a teacher. Yes? So we also have the importance of the music and the program. You have to think about the length of your show, the context. Where am I doing this? For whom? Is this a short thing? Is this a long thing? Is this for a wedding? Is this for a theater? Different contexts and different audiences will request a different show program and therefore different musical alignment. So you always have to think about what is it that I'm going to do, where, and for whom, and then decide what is the format that fits these elements. Once you have the format, you start picking the music that fits the format, that fits the context. If I am dancing in a wedding, let's go for a very obvious, easy to understand example. If I'm preparing a performance for a wedding, I know people are not there to watch me specifically because it's a wedding. I happen to be hired, but they're not there specifically for me. They're there for the celebration and I happen to be there. I also know that people want to celebrate. They're not in the mood to be quietly sitting down and watching a dancer doing a deep performance. And I know there is a love celebration. There is a context of a marriage being celebrated there. So these elements must inform the choices of music, dance styles, and even the order in which I am going to dance different pieces. So let's suppose that I'm starting with the Majoncé, an entrance on stage, not too long, because remember, they're not there for you. They're there for the wedding, right? And then I jump into something romantic but lively, perhaps something that I can dance with the bride and the groom. And then I go for a Saidi, or I go for a tableau solo, or I go for a crazy Maraganette, Shabi song to make people dance, to bring guests in. Perhaps in the middle of my performance, I do a little bit of an animation or a short class with everyone. Perhaps I make a solo with the bride. I mean, there are so many possibilities. You have to think of the context. What is the context about? And what kind of format fits that context? Serves that context. Because remember, once you're performing, especially if you are a professional, it's not about you. It's about you and it's about them. You're serving them. You're delivering value to them. Even if you're the best dancer in the world, you're still delivering value to your clients, to the ones who hired you and the ones who watch your performance. So it is important to create a format that serves the context of your performance and choose the music accordingly and choose the order of your musical pieces accordingly. You have to think of it like a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has to have contrast, texture. It has to have surprise. It has to be dynamic. In other words, it cannot be boring. Yes, I know you're so wonderful. You may be an excellent dancer, but again, don't think only about yourself, think about them, and think about the symbiosis between who you are, what you bring to the table, your beauty, your talent, your creativity, your knowledge, and what people enjoy and how you will make them feel, the kind of experience you're creating for them, not only for you. That's the amateur mindset talking. The amateur worries about her or himself only. The professional knows it takes two to tango. It's about me and it's about them. How do I make this work for us, not for me? So that's a format and a musical alignment that makes sense for this specific context. Then we have the difference between connection and dance exhibition. And I have mentioned this so many times. And as usual, people get upset with me because I offer a lot of mirrors. And if you're triggered, good. Think about it. You can hate me all you want, but think about it, okay? I'm here delivering a service for free. Appreciate it and think about it. There is a difference between a dance exhibition and the performance that connects. It connects the performer to the audience. It connects my heart to the heart of the ones who watch me dance. It connects my soul to the soul of my audience. There is a huge difference. And if we're talking about a professional performance specifically, I don't think there is any other way of doing it. Of course, you can prepare your performance and go ahead, go on stage and throw your performance upon people's laps and say, here it is, I prepared it, I know it's fabulous, I'm fabulous, now applaud, and we all go home. That's how most dancers operate, by the way. Again, if you're an amateur, perfect. Why not? If you're a professional dancer, I don't think so. Sorry. I'm there to create a connection. As a performer, I'm there to create an experience that we can all feel, we can all enjoy, and we can all remember for years to come. I'm there to move my audience, to affect my audience, to make them think, make them feel, to trigger them, to touch their soul, to take them on a ride with me, a ride back to our soul, what makes us human, what unites us as human beings. And I know this is a high claim, it's a high expectation, and sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail, but we should always try. That should always be the goal, to create a soul connection, to bring my audience on a ride with me, a magical ride. That should be the goal. Sometimes we nail it, sometimes we fail at it, but we try. It is absolutely essential. And in that sense, you bring all your confidence to the stage, but you can and should always bring your humbleness. I am confident in the way I present myself as a dancer because I know of my talent, I know of my creativity, I know of my preparation, I know I'm a pro like few. I'm very confident as a dancer, but I'm also humble enough to know that I'm not perfect. And I don't always dance in an inspired manner. I don't always connect. I don't always present the level of work that I wish to present. I make mistakes. Sometimes I'm tired. I'm not inspired. I'm not at my best. I don't create things that I'm particularly interested in. And it's all part of the job. It's all part of life. We're not machines. We're people. We're imperfect. We're volatile. And that's fine. But I always try to make a connection. Even if I don't succeed, I try. And it takes humbleness and willingness and vulnerability and heart to do that. Because if you don't have an open heart, you're not going to create a connection. The connection happens through the heart. There is no other bridge. There is no other link. The heart is the bridge that reconnects the dancer to the soul, and the bridge that connects the dancer, the performer, with the audience. There is no other door, I assure you. So if you are performing with a closed heart, if the ego the vanity, the arrogance, the need to be number one, the ambition, if all of it is stronger than the willingness to share your heart honestly from human being to human being, that connection, that soul-to-soul connection between the performer and the audience is not going to take place. Yes, it's a choice, and it's a work in progress. How open-hearted am I as a performer? That should be your homework, by the way, okay? Now, before I share the last point in this episode, I am going to invite you to check a pre-recorded course that we have at Joana Saahirah's online dance school. It's called How to Create an Irresistible Egyptian Dance Performance. And I am going to share the link for more information on that course in the show notes or in the description box below this video if you're watching this episode on YouTube. That's recommendation number one. Check that beautiful, groundbreaking course and take it. It's always available at our school. You can take your time, you can do it, redo it, come back to it, enjoy it at your own pace as many times as you wish. That's recommendation number one. Recommendation number two, if you're interested in leaping from being an amateur to a professional, check my Professional Mastermind program. It's a private coaching program where I co-create a high-level professional course and performance, or one of them, with a dancer who wants to launch herself or himself professionally. I do it with you. I don't tell you how to do it. No. I do it with you. This is luxury, and it is a knowledge, a preparation, and a guidance that you will be able to take for your life. It will change the entire panorama, the entire horizon of what you consider a professional work in this field. I assure you, it's going to change it drastically. Once again, I'm going to share the link for more information about the Professional Mastermind program in the show notes or in the description box below this video. Last but not least, claim the bonus resources for dancers who want to perform and join the podcast newsletter. All of it in the show notes. Everything sweet and great and life-changing is in the show notes, in the description box below this video. We are going to close the subject of how to prepare a kick-ass belly dance performance with mentioning my last point for the episode. And mind you, yes, there is so much that I'm leaving out because there is a lot to cover, impossible to cover in one single podcast episode. So we have at last a rule that I have been using since forever, which is prepare and then release. As I usually tell my students, when you launch yourself on stage, when you're presenting your performance, that should be the easy part. That should feel like a holiday. It should feel like now I can have fun, lay back, and enjoy the ride. Because the real work happens in preparation. Now, what I often see is the opposite. Dancers don't prepare in the background because for what? Nobody's watching, right? So I'm not preparing if nobody's watching. And then they go on stage doing the preparation they should have done in the background when no one was looking. Big mistake. The stage is not the place for preparation. The stage is not the place to experiment, see if this works, see if it doesn't work. Oh my God, I failed here. I forgot that step. How do I do this? How do I do that? That's not the place for exploration, study, improvement, preparation, polishment, choreography. No, the stage is the place where you show them the product you have already created and prepared for. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't improvise and you shouldn't change what you have prepared. I would say go for it. As a performer, I always improvised. So everything you see on the internet is 100% improvised. In Egypt, around the world, I never choreographed myself for the stage unless I had other dancers with me. But that doesn't mean I didn't prepare. Haha. I prepared. I often choreographed what I was about to perform, and then I said, let's go. And I left all the preparation behind and I just improvised and did what was in my heart. But the preparation stays with you. Even if you don't use a choreography you worked on, that choreography has worked on you. You work on it and it works on you. So don't be fooled by this idea that to be spontaneous, to be fresh, to be impactful, you shouldn't prepare too much. Of course you should prepare too much and then release it. If you are less experienced, you can use what you prepared, improvisation or choreography. And if you are experienced and confident enough, release it. Prepare, and then release it. Use parts of what you have prepared. Use nothing of what you have prepared. Go full-on improvisation or use exactly what you have prepared. But the key word here is prepared. You are prepared, independently of what you used. So remember, the real performance work happens in the background, before the performance, when nobody is watching you. Nobody. And this is why it's so important to love the dance. If you don't love to dance, you're not going to do a good preparation. You're just eager to get in front of people and receive applause. That's it. But if you are a born dancer, if you love to dance, you say yes to preparation. And once you have prepared in the background, when nobody was watching, when the time comes to go on stage, you go confident, you go a little bit calmer than the unprepared dancers, and you know that you have done the work on your body, mind, heart, and soul that will allow you to present yourself at your best. Prepare, then release. This is my last direction on how to create an extraordinary Egyptian dance or belly dance performance. Now, once again, I am going to suggest that you check all the goodies I am sharing in the show notes or in the description box below this video. Subscribe to the podcast newsletter, claim your free goodies, join the course I already recommended. It's always there available for you, and you have my assistance as you go through the course. So even if it is pre-recorded, it doesn't mean you're alone. No, you're not. I make sure that all my students, even the ones who join the pre-recorded courses, are fully supported at all times. Again, all the information in the show notes. Like this episode if you liked it, rate it, follow the podcast in the podcast platforms, subscribe to the channel. Yes, this channel where you are watching this episode, if you're watching it, comment on it, share it with your dance peeps, share your passion and your love for the podcast with the same generosity that I use in the creation and the offering of the podcast to you, my beloved dance community. Let us know how much you love our podcast in all these beautiful ways. And I will see you at the upcoming episode of the Oriental Café podcast with another, and now I'm gonna whisper, another very special guest. Ooh, you are gonna love this guest. If you wanna be the first to know who that is and what we're bringing to the table, join our podcast newsletter. Jump in the comments area right now. Let us know what you think, and I will see you and dance with you soon. Mwah.